Testing. 1, 2. Take a deep breath if that feels good to you. Maybe a big exhale. Welcome. You have arrived here. You can just tune everything else out and gift yourself this hour to nurture yourself. It's okay to do less than you think. You are enough as you are. You have arrived. Just notice how it feels in your body to be here right now. I'd like to start the class with some words from Louise Hay. The past is over and done and has no power over me. I can begin to be free in this moment. Today's thoughts create my future. I am in charge. I now take my power back. I am safe and I am free. Welcome. Throughout this class, you're welcome to make any adjustments that feel right in your body. You're welcome to follow any cues with breath or movement that I offer, but know that you have the authority to make any adjustments that feel right to you. The most important thing today is to listen to your body, to follow the moves and the adjustments that feel right to you. Take your time and notice how your body is feeling. This is session 2. The 4 class series is Heal, Empower, and Thrive. This is a trauma-informed yoga class I'm offering for survivors of trauma. I'm honored that you're here, and I hope that you can take a few minutes and just settle in. If you have yoga equipment, you're welcome to have that handy. Yoga mat. If you have any yoga blocks or anything else that might be an object, a big book or even a water bottle can work. Have something else handy if you can. If you've got pillows and blankets available, that would be wonderful as well. I believe that you can practice yoga anywhere and anytime with any equipment or none. So don't feel like you need anything, but if you have it, I will offer a few suggestions for a few things you can use the block for today. And if not a block, then kind of a hefty book would work. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm really glad you're here. If you didn't make it to the first session, that's okay. But if you have a chance to watch the first session, it gives you a background of trauma and yoga and trauma-informed yoga. So, and also introduces some of the basic movements that we'll be working with throughout the class. So I highly recommend you take a day when you can watch those, watch that first video for a little background in this style. This particular class is quite gentle, although you are always welcome to heat it up a little bit more if that suits you better. This second class in the series is Cultivation of Well-Being. And so let's just see what we can cultivate today. In our first session, we introduced a few tools that we will keep using throughout the series, and they include a grounding practice, a journaling practice, some basic flow yoga movements that you can hopefully have chose one move, one shape in that session that felt especially good to you. If you did, then try to remember what that one pose was. That would be great. We also had a lot of awareness. So session 1 was an introduction and awareness practices. So, really brought a lot of attention and awareness to the body itself and how you're feeling and how you're breathing and honoring how you show up every day. So, moving from there, we're going to take a few minutes here and just start to move the body in any way that feels good. In this practice, one of the biggest challenges I think can be really trying to hear what the body is telling you, trying to tune in and listen inside instead of always trying to listen outwardly to find out the cues for what you need to do next. So move in any way that feels good to you. Maybe rolling the shoulders, perhaps moving the head and the neck. Sometimes I find that once I start moving in one way or another, my body starts to guide me and tell me what I need next. So maybe you need a little massage on the neck and shoulders, notice any tightness, just bringing awareness into the body. Also, bringing awareness into the breath and noticing how the breath is moving in and out today. Continue to move and flow any way that feels good to you, perhaps adding in some twists for the spine if that feels good to you. Maybe reach and stretch. These are all just suggestions, maybe some side bending. Perhaps you just want to take a few breaths and settle in and feel yourself in your body, feel the weight of the body settling in into the seat. I'll invite you to take a deep breath in if it feels right to you. Exhale completely and let it go. Let everything go. You have arrived, and the hardest part is over. All you need to do is show up for yourself, and you have done that. From here on out, if you would like to relax in any way, finding your resting pose that we worked with in the first session, whether that's on the back or on the side or in a child's pose or any other pose at all, you're welcome to find a resting pose if that's what you want to do. This is your time. And just keep following your breath. I am not behind or unproductive. I am doing as much as my mind and body are allowing me to do under perpetual stress and fatigue. Words from Dr. Susana Munoz, one of my favorite quotes of all time. And just noticing how it feels to allow yourself to have the authority over your movements. Notice if you're more comfortable practicing with your eyes open, closed, or with a soft gaze. Perhaps grounding through the seat or grounding through any part of the body. We'll take just a couple more breaths here. And I'd like you to check in and ask yourself how you're feeling right now. Notice if one word or phrase comes up. And then ask yourself, how have I been doing for the last month? Is there an overarching theme to how you've been feeling this month? A lot of times when we ask ourselves, we'll feel the answer inside. That's not always the answer we give when somebody asks how we're doing outwardly, right? But you know, and it's time to check in. This is your time. Check in, ask. And if you have your journal or your paper handy, your notes, your sticky note, write down what came up for you. Write down how you're feeling right now and how you've been feeling. Have you been using any tools this month? And those tools might be some that we introduced in the first class session: grounding, awareness, breath, body scan, journaling, any of those types of practices, finding rest. Noticing if any of those tools have been tools you've pulled out of your toolbox. And finally, ask yourself what you need more of. Is there something that you need to nurture yourself with? Is there something that you need? And write that down. And if you're ready, and if you would like to move at this point, we'll come to a standing position. And we'll come to a mountain pose, a balanced and even stance, grounding down through the soles of the feet evenly. And it's always your choice. You can walk on the feet, you can stand in one position. Can you feel, or I should say, what can you feel through the soles of your feet? Can you feel all of the edges of your feet? Can you feel the weight of the body anchoring down into the center of the earth, from the top of the head all the way down through the body? Take a few breaths here and notice how it feels. Notice what comes up for you. How does it feel to focus inwardly? Now, if you would like, I'm going to offer up our Sun A, or our half Sun A salutation that we worked on these poses in the last session. Introduced them last time. So if one pose feels best for you, you're welcome to stay in that one pose the whole class. Or if you would like to follow along, perhaps reach high and stretch. And while you're reaching high, continue to anchor down through the soles of the feet. We'll take it kind of slow here, folding forward into Uttanasana, our forward fold. Noticing how it feels to continue to anchor through the feet. And maybe turning the head from side to side, exploring the head and the neck. If you would like, come halfway up to Ardha Uttanasana, and then fold forward again. And it's your choice. You can take the arms out to the side and reach the head forward, reverse swan dive up, or roll through one vertebrae at a time. Whatever way you like to come all the way up. Reach high. And bring the hands to heart center and notice again how you're feeling in mountain pose. Perhaps you find balance side to side and front to back. You can continue those poses at your own pace. Might go through a few times or one very slow time. I'd like to talk about our yoga philosophies that we're going to get into today. We're going to start with the yama, which we talked about last week, some of the teachings of yoga, in the last session, whenever it was you took it. And the first one that we're going to get into today is Aparigraha. And this is non-greediness or non-grasping. So we're not trying to take more than we need, right? We're releasing and just accepting what we need. So how does that apply in our lives right now? Do we need to do every single thing we're doing? Can we release a little bit? Can we let go a little bit? Are you taking more than your share? Right? So non-greediness, and that can be applied to just taking more than you need. Can you accept a practice for the benefits in the moment instead of looking down the road at what you're grasping onto and working towards that big goal. And sometimes we really just need to work on the practice of showing up and nurturing ourselves right in the moment, right? And taking from the practice what you can get right then and there. That's sometimes all that you need, and that's what it means to practice. We're practicing something. We're not always just focused only on that end result. So can you release your grip a little bit and just take what you need right now? Parigraha. Now let's, if you would like to extend your sun salutation A, and we'll take it a little bit further with a little variation, maybe bringing the hands to the mat and stepping the feet back. And this is our plank pose that we talked about last week. And sometimes it feels good to have some strength and heat in the body. And sometimes it's not what you need. So notice whether you want to hang out in your plank or you say, you know what, that's not what I need right now. I need a little more nurturing gentleness. Either way is fine. And we can lower all the way down and rise for cobra, opening the chest. And lower, and I'm going to offer up a variation here. Come on up to your tabletop, hands and knees. And we'll take the right foot and turn it out to the side. These are all optional, of course. And I'm going to straighten out the left. And we're going to put the right hand, the right knee, and the left foot in a line. And reach up, kind of a side plank variation, but we're heading towards a gate pose. So anchoring down, feeling how it feels to anchor through the foot. And then maybe if you'd like, reach and stretch through the side. Another option here is to use the block under the hand. Notice if it feels good to you to be in the side stretch. Maybe you come up and taking it over the other side. Welcoming in any variations that feel right to you along the way. This class is not focused on our alignment. This is focused on nurturing and feeling into the body. Coming back to your tabletop pose and welcoming in some cat and cow movements, flexing through the spine. Throughout this whole class, you have the choice. It's up to you. You have the power to choose what feels right. And if you would like, we'll take that to the other side. So now reaching that left foot back into a kickstand, extending the right. So we've got left hand, left knee, and right foot in a line. Reach it up. Maybe stretch the top arm long. Again, you have the option of using a block. If you're ready, make your way back if you'd like, taking it up to a downward dog. Asking yourself if this downward dog feels good in your body. Can you make an adjustment? What can you do to make it feel better? Walk the feet to the hands, or you can step. Exhale, fold. Noticing if the breath movement with the body feels right. And you can roll up, or you can take the arms out to the sides. It's up to you. You can hang out here, practicing a grounding practice in your mountain pose, or continue to flow. You have some time here on your own to flow through that practice in any pace that you like, or if there's one pose in particular, I'd like you to find your way there, enjoy that. And the second part of the yoga philosophy that we're going to focus on today is santosha. So this is a niyama. So this means that this is our internal work. So the non-greediness is a little more external, how we interact outwardly with the world. And our niyama is how we are showing up for ourselves, right? So this is more like the healthy living, how we are taking care of ourselves and how we're showing up for ourselves. And Santosha is really all about contentment. So can we be content with how we are? And that's kind of an interesting question. Are we content? Does that mean that we have to be content with how things are externally? It's actually really independent of all external circumstances. Can we be content inside, knowing that the essence of you is always enough? The essence of you is beautiful and perfect just as you are. The essence of you has nothing to do with anyone else, any circumstances outside of yourself. It has nothing to do with anything going on. So it's not a matter of waiting for circumstances to change. This contentment is, can we really tap into that knowing of who we are, who you are, knowing that that's enough, that at the very core of your being, you are enough as you are. Can we sit with that contentment? Can we breathe into that instead of waiting for circumstances to tell us that we're okay, right? We have to start with the internal work. So wherever you are in your flow, maybe join me once again in our standing pose. And of course, you can always take a resting pose anytime you'd like. Otherwise, we'll take it a little deeper. And this time I'll add a little heat by adding into our sun salutation B, adding in our warrior flows. Always optional. Listen to your body. Maybe we reach high and maybe we fold forward. Listen to yourself. Listen to your body. Coming halfway up and fold forward. Maybe hands come to the mat and we step to plank. And recognizing whether you'd like to move and flow in sync with your breath, or whether you would like to take a few breaths in each pose. I'll move through it slow and steady this first time, and then you can pick and choose what feels best to you. And perhaps reaching that right leg up high and stepping it forward. Making any adjustments at all that feel right to you. Maybe we want to rise for warrior one. See how that warrior feels for you today. Make adjustments and notice how it feels. Changing the angle of the hips, noticing what that does. Open out for warrior two. As we're flowing through our poses, notice if there's a couple poses, if there are a couple poses that feel good to you. Our first session, we were shooting for one pose that felt especially good. And today, maybe we find three poses. Let's come down to side angle if you would like, bringing the elbow down, sitting the hips lower if you want. Reach the top arm long. Always exploring, showing up with curiosity, seeing how it feels to be in each of these shapes, and coming back out if it's not right, or if it's not right now. And let's lower down and step back to downward dog. Taking any detours that you would like along the way. Can you make this practice your own? Reaching the right leg up and step it forward. Now rise for our warrior one, planting that back heel. again, exploring and noticing, making adjustments, feeling your way through. Reverse your warrior, peaceful warrior. Coming back to warrior 2. How does warrior feel to you? Does it feel like a strong, empowering pose to you? Or does it feel like a struggle? There's no right answer here. So there's some poses that a lot of people paint with certain traits, like, for instance, if a warrior pose is really empowering, but what if it doesn't feel empowering to you? Just consider that. Just like, is a restful pose restful to you? What happens if that's not restful to you? Your choice, if you'd like to roll up, rise up, or come to chair pose, lowering the hips into Utkatasana, chair pose. And press up to standing, bringing the hands down, returning to mountain pose, or Samasthiti, hands to heart. Taking a moment to notice how you're feeling in your body. Check in. If you're a regular yoga practitioner, how many times do you go through the flow without thinking about how you're really feeling and whether that pose is right for you today? This is a nurturing practice. This is you taking care of yourself. This is you showing up for yourself. All right, so it's up to you. If you would like to flow through the sun bee salutation at your own pace, maybe even throwing in Trikonasana, or triangle pose. I'll go through the flow, but if you'd rather go faster, you go right ahead. If you'd rather just pick a pose and chill out, you do that, right? Very important. That's the most important part of this practice. Have you gathered that yet? The most important part is you being true to what your body is asking for. Notice, is there something that you can feel, that you can allow yourself to feel? What's going on in your body? How is your breath moving? Do you want to take a little extra stretch, maybe a child's pose along the way? Consider a detour. Are you content with your practice for today? Are you reaching and grasping for more in your practice than you're really needing right now? Here, I'm throwing in this triangle pose. This is another place for a block. Now, choosing to use the blocks and supports is also something to consider. Do you use your props if you have them? And if you choose not to, why do you choose not to? We sometimes don't use things that are there to help us because we think that we're too good, or we think that that's for people who can't do a pose, or the hassle of getting the equipment. And I think that all of those reasons are the wrong reasons The props are there to help get more out of a pose. So I would offer up that it's worth trying the pose to see if you can change it by using a block. Does it offer up a little support so that you can get a little deeper into it or feel a little stronger in the core or align the spine even more? What can you do with a block to support yourself? And how does that reflect in your life outside of your yoga practice? Are you using all of the support that you have available to you? Or are you choosing not to for some reason? Coming back to your mountain pose, take a few breaths, check in, notice how you're feeling throughout the body and the breath. How are you feeling right now? Muji says, feelings are just visitors. Let them come and go. Right? It's kind of like the weather or the clouds. They drift through. We can look at it. We can say, wow, that's really intense. And then let it go. Right? It doesn't have to stay. We don't have to grasp. Greediness, grasping, holding on. We can let it go. Right? All right. If you would like, we're going to come into some balancing today. So if you would like, we're going to come into a single leg Tadasana. So anchoring down through the sole of the right foot, allow the left foot to float up. Stay tall through the spine. Notice any movement as you're balancing. Some days our balance comes very easily, and some days it's not awesome. All right, we're going to take this into eagle pose. So crossing that foot over, crossing the legs. An option here is to bring your block next to the foot. So when you can put the toes down as you sit the hips back. Bring the hands to heart. I'll give you another view. I'll face you as well so you can see what I just did there. So crossing the foot over, you can place the toes right on the block and sit the hips back. Right? I really love using the block here because then I can focus on the angle of the hips and the spine. And then if you would like, you can take the arms out and cross the left under and right over. So it's optional to add the eagle arms. And if you don't want the block, just hug the legs in, try to level the hips out, and soften the gaze. Notice how everything is feeling in this balanced pose. Feel all of the little movements. Stay as long as you would like, or if you would like, work your way out. Release your eagle, let it fly away. Take a reach up high and fold it forward. Notice how it's feeling. Choose your poses. Maybe fold forward and roll up if that feels good to you. Now, if you would like, you can place that block to the other outside of the other foot now. If you're using a block, and that can be a book or really anything about that size. As you're ready, if you would like, go ahead and lift the left foot up this time, finding some balance here in your single leg Tadasana, softening the gaze, noticing what's most comfortable in the gaze, and lengthening up through the spine. Feel the shoulders, Notice how it feels anchoring down through the sole of the foot. Can you apply a grounding practice here? I personally have found that balancing poses like this can help anchor me when I'm feeling scattered, when I have too many thoughts going on. Balancing and anchoring down really grounds me into my body. Now, if you would like, if you're ready, you can cross that foot over, bringing the hands to heart, sitting the hips down and back. And I'm using the block here, placing the toes on the block, lengthening through the spine, feeling how it feels to be in your eagle pose. And then if you would like, you can add the arms, bringing the right arm under, left arm over, wrapping, allowing yourself to come in and out of the pose as your balance comes and goes. Notice what happens here to your breath and your grounding and your mind. You can stay as long as you would like, or come out whenever you're ready and let your eagle just fly away. If you would like, go ahead and reach up high and perhaps fold forward, Uttanasana. Feeling that forward fold. Feeling the belly on the thighs. Coming halfway up. And maybe rolling forward and perhaps rolling up or reverse swan dive all the way back up. Notice what would feel good here. Maybe it would feel good to add in some side bends. Or a little back bend, cactusing the arms, opening the chest. Just some ideas here. Now, if you would like, consider taking your feet wide on the mat, like close to the outer edges, toes pointing out. And I'm going to bend the knees and sit the hips down. Maybe coming down into a yogi squat here, only if that feels good. If it feels good, you can hang out right here. You can also use a block to have a seat if that feels good, but you'd like to take a little of the work out of it. Your choice. Now, from here, if you would like, you have a couple options I'm going to offer you. One is to rise back up and starting in your mountain pose. If you'd like a little more heat, you're welcome to flow through that sun salutation B, or find a couple of the poses that felt really good to you. 3 is what I would recommend if you've got 3 poses that were especially appealing and juicy and nurturing and just felt really good. Maybe take a moment in your mountain pose and think about what those 3 poses might be. Feel free to move between them or pick one and hold. Or you can make your way all the way down and step back to a downward dog. Recognizing what's going on in each part of the body. Using our grounding practice to feel where you're touching the floor. Notice your feet, notice your hands. Feeling the surface of the skin in touch with the mat or the floor. Feel the breath as it comes in and out through the nose. Feeling the temperature of the air on the skin and in the nostrils and in the lungs. Noticing all of these sensations in the body. And if you would like, perhaps take 3 breaths here If that sounds appealing, we'll take 3 breaths together. Inhaling nice and full, feel the belly, feel the chest, feel everything, receiving the breath, and exhale out, letting it go. Noticing how it feels as you release the breath. Then we'll take another inhale. Feel the belly, feel the chest, feel the rib cage. Exhaling, feeling the release. And perhaps one more. Of course, you can always come out of this pose sooner if you would like, or finish this last. Exhale and let it go. And if you'd like, lower the knees gently. And take the hips all the way back to a child's pose. In your child's pose, you can bring your forehead to the mat. And from here, you have options. So you can stay in your child's pose. You can use your blanket or pillow underneath your head or behind the hips or under the knees. I would actually encourage you to find, to use some props and see what feels good, like explore. Or if you'd like, you can make your way down to your back. If you'd like, you can also stay in a seated pose. So we're going to bring our bodies back down and cool it down and find some final poses here. So whatever feels good to you, take a few movements and see what feels right. If it feels good to be on the back of the body, you can maybe hug the knees into the chest and maybe roll a little bit side to side. Maybe even coming to a supine twist. If that's something that feels good in your body, you can bring the opposite knee across. And in each and every pose that you choose, take a few breaths and just see how it feels. Asking yourself in each position, how's this feeling? And what about now? How's that feeling? Invite yourself to make it even more comfortable. What would make it more comfortable? What would make it more nurturing? How can I find contentment here? How can I release the grasping for more? How can I accept where I am on the journey right now? Can I accept it, right? Some days, maybe not. So just recognize what's going on there. We have control over that. Nobody else can provide contentment for us. Nobody else can provide that feeling of acceptance and non-grasping, right? Those are things that only you can choose and practice. And again, it's a practice, so there's no perfection. It's just one day at a time, showing up and seeing how it feels. Breathing into it and noticing the breath. Noticing and observing. As you're ready, if you would like, make your way down to your choice of Shavasana pose. Maybe that means lying on the back, stretching and reaching, and then settling in. Or any other pose that feels good for your final resting pose of the practice. So in your final resting pose, I would love to have you make yourself as comfortable as possible. So grab whatever comfort things you have available, your pillows, your blankets, your blocks, your bolsters, whatever it is. take those extra couple of seconds and grab it. Maybe you want the pillow behind the knees. Maybe you want the pillow behind the head. Maybe you want a blanket to completely cover you. Perhaps it would feel good to use an eye pillow or a cloth or a corner of the blanket over the eyes. Maybe you would rather keep the eyes wide open. Asking yourself these questions and accepting and allowing the answer. Notice the breath. If it feels good to take a few breaths and let the exhales be big and full and complete, let that happen. If it feels good to fill the belly and the rib cage and the chest all the way up, and then as you exhale, maybe open the mouth and let it all go. If focusing on the breath is not a comfortable place for you to be, then do what feels right to you. As we come into our own version of a resting pose, whatever that looks like, whatever that seems from the outside, does not matter. Find your rest here. Dr. Tama says, a trauma mindset will convince you that everything will collapse if you are still, if you rest, or if you do something just for yourself. It's not true. Let some ease into your day, into your breath, into your life. Does that ring true for you? Can you breathe ease into your moment? Let's not even overshoot and say we need to do it in the life or even the day, but what about this moment? Can you find a little bit of space? You've carved out this time for yourself. What can you allow yourself to feel? What happens if you exhale and let it go? Can we say some things to ourselves right now? Can we say, I am safe? I am enough. I am my own guide. I am complete. I am aware. I breathe fully in and out. I find rest. I find peace inside. I am content inside. I am supported. I am not alone. I am strong and resilient. I honor my limits every day. I am enough and always have been. I can cultivate my own well-being through contentment, through acceptance, and taking only what I need right now. I can exhale and find peace here. As you find your rest here, notice each part of the body, piece by piece, bringing awareness from the top of the head, relaxing the forehead and the eyes. Maybe as you exhale, you can relax the shoulders and the neck. Exploring with curiosity how the breath is moving on the exhale. Recognizing perhaps you can relax the spine and all the way down the legs to the toes and down the arms to the fingers. Recognizing each part of the body one by one. Breathing in peace, relaxation, acceptance, and contentment into each part of the body. And if you would like, you can continue to rest here as long as you choose. If you would like, you can begin to move and reach and stretch, bringing movement into the hands and the feet. Into the wrists and the ankles, and the arms and the legs. If it feels good in your body, go ahead and bend the knees and roll to the right side of the body. If you would like, you can stay here, take a couple of breaths, and notice the weight of the body on the floor. Notice if you feel relaxed and anchored in the body. Just recognize what you do feel. Recognize what the breath feels like moving through the body right now. If you're ready, if you would like, go ahead and rise back up to a seated pose. If you'd prefer, you can stay on the ground, rolling over into a child's pose, or onto the belly, or staying on the back, any position that you like. Take a moment to recognize inside and ask yourself how you're feeling right now. Notice if one word or phrase comes to mind. These are those answers that you get from deep inside. Ask yourself how your practice was for you today. What felt good? How did you nurture yourself throughout this practice? Were there poses that felt especially good and nurturing in your body right now? These are things that I would encourage you to write down in your journal or sticky note or paper, reminding yourself how you feel. Remind yourself what poses were most effective for you today. These are things you can add to your toolbox. This toolbox that you can take out daily, you can take it out whenever you need it. If you're having an especially difficult day or moment or hour, you've got these tools in your toolbox. You can choose to use them every morning, every night, once a week, or whenever needed. But it helps to have a reminder of what these tools are. Sometimes when we need them the most is when we can't remember any of them. So this is your note to future self. Here's a tool, right? Write that down. Here's a tool. This pose, and this pose. Try that, right? It won't work every time, but if we have a handful of tools to use and we go through all of them, it certainly can't hurt, right? So these are tools for you. Remind yourself anything that was empowering that came up for you today in your practice of working with santosha, contentment, and aparigraha, non-grasping. I invite you to take some time after we close this class to journal if you would like, or sit with your thoughts and your feelings. If you're seated, Maybe consider lengthening the spine and rolling the shoulders, and notice how you feel anchoring down into the earth. Taking a moment here, finding a meditation that works for you, following the breath all the way in through the nose. Maybe you feel the belly and the chest move and rise and fall. Taking a moment and just feeling how it feels to be in your body right this minute. And let's take, if it feels right to you, we'll take one more breath together, reaching high, gathering it all together and bringing it down to heart center. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Namaste. I hope that you're feeling at ease in your body and your mind. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a note